Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Show. Tonight, Showdown 2012. We will be discussing the crises and the threats that are on the horizon in the year ahead. And back by popular demand from last week, the listeners, viewers, and the readers of Front Page have simply gone crazy over our guest last week, demanding that he return, the Russian scientist and leading reluctant dissident, Igor Milchuk. Igor Milchuk, welcome back to the program.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. And we have a large studio audience here with us at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. And we're going to ask our studio audience what they think of Igor being back on the Jamie Glazov Show. You are very, very popular.
Well, I believe it is a technical trick.
No. We really have a studio audience here. Igor, before we begin, because I want to talk about all the scary things that might be happening this year, I want to talk a little bit about something that transpired between us over the last couple of days. I had promoted the show by saying that you were a dissident, and you wanted me to qualify that by saying that you were a reluctant dissident during the time of the Soviet Union.
137% correct.
Yeah, I think it would be great for our listeners just to hear a little bit about that. Why were you a reluctant dissident and not a dissident during the years of the Soviet Union?
You see, first of all, I'm a born scientist, trained to look for truth of things and actually hating everything that smells of politics, etc. So for many years I just tried to stay out of this arena where different political things happened. And I tried it really very hard, closing my eyes to obvious and difficult problems. But at some point, I could not stand it anymore. It's difficult for me to say exactly when it happened. I think it happened in 64, 65 with the trial of Daniel and Sinyavsky. Both are not with us anymore. I knew a bit Daniel, and I knew that he was a very good poet and a war veteran who was badly wounded and lost an arm, etc. And he was accused of anti-Soviet activities for his literary work and his songs, and was sent to 7 years in Gulag. And I could not stand that. Of course I protested. Then the next year, the invasion of Czechoslovakia. Again, I could not agree with that. I believe that it's a terrible mistake. But exactly, when I say that I was a reluctant dissident, what I mean, I did not mean to attack the Soviet government or the Communist Party that was the reigning force in the Soviet Union. Not because I liked them, I hated them in my, depth of my soul, but I believed that it's absolutely impregnable. You cannot do anything to destroy them. They are too strong for me. Who am I to fight such a Goliath? But I believe that they are reasonable people, and I'm a very reasonable person without any ambition. So if I try to deal with them and explain, at least to some of them, that actually it would be better for everybody to do things in a different way, I was so naive, Yasha. I'm almost crying now when I see how stupid I was only 40 years ago. But yes, I was. And
let me interrupt you for a minute. So simultaneously, you hated the Soviet regime, you hated the Soviet system, but simultaneously you didn't think that there would be severe repercussions to criticizing it?
And useless repercussions. I believed that you cannot do them any serious harm, that they are so strong that you cannot fight them.
You didn't know that they were that afraid of the truth?
Yes, but I believe that they should not be afraid of any truth.
Right.
Maybe there are some things that should be hidden, but I believed that there are many things that they should admit and could admit without any harm done. But
Right.
they knew better. They knew that it's impossible to allow you, 15% of truth. Where is 15, there will be 17, then 25, etc. But in my naivete, I did not believe that.
Right.
And so I tried to deal with them, play their own game on their field, according to their rules with them. For instance, when I wrote the letter defending Sakharov and Kovalyov, and was actually tried in my own research center, I was they were trying me in the sense of trial, and I was making effort to tell them that I did not violate any Soviet rule or even any unwritten rules of behavior. I asked them, show me anything that forbids me to express my opinion in any newspaper in the world.
Yeah.
Why you are persecuting me for that? What did I wrong? I said that I disagree with this or that. Do you agree? It's not the question. But I say, no, you tell me whether you agree or not. Oh, no, we are asking you, etc., etc. So it happened partly because, you see, there were very strong processes happening inside of me, and being a very poor psychologist, I could not analyze myself properly. I believed then that I'm a Soviet patriot, and I am ready to collaborate with the government and with the communists just to improve our way of life without harming anyone.
Now,
I believe that you can...
One second. They say that, when people live in a totalitarian society, often there's a kind of a schizophrenia or personality disorder of some kind. Now, I'm being polite. I don't mean to be disrespectful. We're analyzing.
Oh, no. You go ahead, Yasha. I understand everything.
So what I want to ask is, there seems to be, and I'm not saying that this isn't normal in the Soviet Union, but there seems to be a kind of a contradiction in your thinking at that time, because on the one hand,
it's schizophrenia, Yasha.
At the one hand, you hate this system, and you hate it because you know it's wrong, you know it's totalitarian, you know it's evil, and yet on another level somewhere, you think that you can still cooperate and that it won't hurt.
Exactly, Yasha. You put your finger on the spot.
Maybe I should have been a psychologist.
Exactly. You see, I believe that all reasonable people in the Soviet Union were like that. Mm-hmm. Because to declare a war on the authorities, you must be kind of kamikaze.
Right.
There are such people, and I have my full respect for them. But I was not one of them. And I believed that even if you sacrifice your life, it's for nothing. You cannot move them anyway.
Igor,
so the only way out for us was to collaborate to some degree. Unfortunately, it was completely wrong. If you try to sup with the devil, you need a very long spoon, and I did not have such a spoon. So I discovered very quickly, and on my own skin, that you cannot do that.
Igor, when you look back today, if you were completely honest in terms of examining your psychology and reflecting,
you mean at that time?
Yeah, just let me ask this. When you think back today, if you were completely honest, you say that you were reluctant, you say that you were naive, but do you think that somewhere subconsciously that you knew what was going to happen? You wanted to break from this evil system?
Well, I don't know, Yasha.
So
I can only say that I think that no. I simply, you see, when you live suppose you live in a jail or something like that, and there are very strict rules. If you don't obey them, you will be physically destroyed right away. Mm-hmm. So you obey them to some extent. And if it's for life, and you know that you will never, ever go out, and whatever is beside or on the other side of this huge wall, you never saw it, you even suspect that probably it does not exist, that the whole world is like that. and you have been inside already for 50 years.
Now,
so you start to look for a way to adapt without sacrificing something that is sacred in you. For instance, I could not afford not to try to defend Sakharov. That was beyond me. Even if I knew that I will suffer, I will do that again and again.
Right. But you knew that there would be consequences.
No, I believe that there will be very mild consequences.
I see. Okay.
And that was possible, you see, because the chief of the personnel in our center, a KGB person, was a very nice woman, incredibly good person. That's another story why it happened. And she told me that when the organization of my research center contacted the party office of our region, and they were discussing my problem with them, high-placed party bosses, they said, shrugging their shoulders, "Why you are asking us what to do? Everything is legal here, so you do what you believe is correct, and that's it." And you see, people, and I believed that it would be like that, but I counted on the personnel of my research center. I believed that, well, how could they do anything to me? How can they vote unanimously that I don't correspond to the position that I occupied, junior research fellow with 100 or more published scientific papers? They cannot do that. And they cannot persecute me because all my actions were 100% legal in the Soviet Union. And you see, and I was mistaken. And that really finished my love for the country. It really killed me when I saw that it was not some mysterious KGB general somewhere up, I don't know where, but my colleagues, well, I wouldn't call them friends, but people with whom I shared my life for 25 years.
Igor, do you look back and see them as cowards?
It's more than cowards. You see, yes, in a sense, but they were not afraid of consequences, direct consequences. The vote ballot was secret, and so no one could be personally punished. They were afraid of what they will feel about themselves and about me if they let me go. It means that they would admit that someone can be honest and stay where he is. And what about them? So they also have to be honest then, and that becomes dangerous. I think that's what pushes people in totalitarian societies to such horrible depths.
But anyway, to crystallize quickly, perhaps, where you and I collide a little bit on what I call you, I consider you a hero, Igor, and you, in your humility, let me finish for a minute.
You should have known.
No,
if
Igor,
you real heroes whom I met in my life there.
I want to explain this to the listeners, that I just want to crystallize this, that I consider you a hero, and why in your own humility you explain that you don't think you are, because you're saying you didn't know exactly at the time that you necessarily would even become a dissident by what you did, right?
Yes, that's exactly the right description of what happened to me.
Right. So for the sake of our readers, once again, and our listeners, Igor Milchuk defended Andrei Sakharov in a letter published in the New York Times.
And Kovalyov.
And Kovalyov, another great dissident. Now, Igor, you left in 1977 the Soviet Union. You were expelled from the Institute of Linguistics of the Academy of Sciences because of that letter in the New York Times. Let me ask you, when you were expelled, what did you do for work? What was your life like after that time?
Exactly. You see, when I was discharged, and dishonorable discharge, because it was that for 25 years I did not complete my scientific duties. Well, you can understand with such a recommendation. I wrote to about 60 different research centers and centers of higher education. around the European part of the Soviet Union. I got 2 answers, negative answers, out of 65 or something. All the others did not even bother to answer. So I could not find any job. And I started earning my life by teaching English, French, and Spanish. Many of my friends, even those who had absolutely no need to learn languages, organized teaching groups, 5 to 10 people, and everyone would pay me just a bit, but in sum it gave me much more income than my miserable salary at the research center. And I applied to the official authorities to pay my taxes on that. In the Soviet Union, the taxes were incredibly, ridiculously low, like 2 or 3% on your salary. And I wanted to pay that, but I was not allowed because I was not qualified to teach languages.
I see.
I say, in what sense I'm not qualified? I was several times, 3 times, maybe more, invited to the local police because I was considered a social parasite. I did not work anywhere. I say, no, I do work. I teach languages. I keep track of all money I received from people. So as soon as you tell me where to pay my taxes, I will, right away. No, you cannot because you are not qualified. Sir, listen to me. I have a diploma of a professional teacher, and I have been doing that for 25 years. Oh, he looks at me and says, you are almost 40 years or more old, and you don't understand. We're not talking about you. We're talking about the fact you are not qualified. That was it.
Igor, I want to move on to 2012 and discuss everything, but very quickly, just one more thing about that fascinating period and your courage. Were there some people that stuck by you and that helped you at that time?
Yes, many. All those people who organized those groups, among them was a person, he is still alive, his name is Leonid Kasatkin. Mm-hmm. The story of his life would fill 10 radio shows like yours.
Because of
and he knew what his father was shot in Stalin purges, and his mother served 15 years in camps. And in spite of all that, he lost his job too, because of me, in a sense. But he, at his house and his apartment, he organized one of those teaching groups and found people who were willing to come and learn English with me. We were reading Hemingway, translating and discussing, etc. No, many people stuck with me.
Igor, because of that, and because there were some good, noble people, when you say that you lost faith and love for Russia by being betrayed by your colleagues, did the brave people that stood by you during your hardships...
They are my friends, Yasha. It's quite different.
It's quite different.
They are personal friends. You see, you love a country. Means that you love it kind of not individually, not because of nice people, just because the whole system of life, independently, whether this person or that person is nice or what, I am fully protected. I love Canada because I feel at home anywhere, even where I have no friend at all.
Right. But
that's very different. In Russia, I still have many excellent friends, which are first-class people. Most of them...
Were there some friends that you thought would stick by you, but that disappointed you and abandoned you?
No. There were many difficult things like that. For instance, a former student of mine, a woman, tried to publish a paper, and she expressed her gratitude to my guiding before. I was already in Canada. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, if you mention him, the paper cannot be published. Take out your acknowledgement. She said, then I don't need the paper, and didn't publish it.
Wow.
Yes, Yura Apprecian didn't publish a very interesting scientific result for 15 years. Mm-hmm. exactly, because he refused adamantly to publish it without mentioning my name, which was strictly forbidden.
Yeah. Now, Igor, I want to ask something. You know, being the son of also people that stood up.
Yes, exactly. You must know all that.
Let me
from
ask
your, first diapers.
Yeah, growing up in a dissident family and in an anti-Soviet family, I've often heard conversations around the dinner table that, you know, there's criticisms, for instance, that Russian Jews only stood up for Russian Jews or Russians only stood up for Russians. Let me ask this: was it multicultural in terms of who supported you?
Yes, more or less so. You see, at that time, I must say another thing. I was not very much interested in national backgrounds.
Right.
If you ask me now to try to remember who was who, maybe most of them were Jewish.
Okay.
But I learned that only much later. I didn't know it at the time that they were half Jews like yourself, you see. Yeah. But being there, we did not consider us very Jewish exactly. That's another reason why I wasn't a dissident. There was this terrible Jewish dissidency, and they wanted to live for Israel, and I never had, I am ready to die for Israel, but I'm absolutely not ready to live there.
Yeah, if you don't mind me crystallizing this, what is your ethnicity?
I am 100% Jewish. You cannot be more Jewish than me.
And are you religious?
Absolutely not. I'm anti-religious. I must say it's true, all the religions, while I understand that some religion is absolutely a must for many people, and I respect those who are religious. Hating the religion, I respect religious people.
Now, are you an atheist or agnostic?
Well, I don't know what agnostic is. I know for sure that there is no God. If it's agnosticism, I don't know. But you see, again, I consider that for myself and for people who are close to me, it is irrelevant. Right. If you believe, well, you can. I wouldn't mind. It's strange. One of my best friends, a brilliant linguist, a Polish linguist, Anna Wierzbicka, is deeply religious. And we have been very close friends for 50 years, and I was mocking her a bit, and she was mocking me, and we never quarreled about that. Because she's a completely, how would I say, pure and whole person. She believes so. She likes seafood, and I hate seafood. Right. Why quarrel about that?
So, Igor, let's move on to 2012, but just one more question on religion, and briefly, please. So in terms of the chances between 1 and 100, 1 being the least, 100 being the most, what are the chances of you converting to Islam?
-100.
Okay, let us begin with the 2012 Showdown. Let us begin at least, or at most, I think it's very important because you're from Russia, you understand the psychology of what's going on there. Putin is up to a lot of mischief in the Middle East. It's very important what happens in Russia in many ways. Can you comment a little bit on the psychology of Putin?
Psychology of Putin. Oh, very
his
difficult.
mentality, what
you see, his mentality must be mentality of a very intelligent rat.
Okay.
You see, I was studying a bit, not seriously, but to some extent the behavior of rats, because they developed a system of communication that very vaguely resembles human language. And that's why I was interested in what they stand for. Well, they have only one interest in life, which combines reproduction, food, and physical dominance. Mm-hmm. Nothing else interests them. So there are some rats who are intelligent in the sense that they look for other fields of their activities, where they're trying to find new fields where you can find more females or more food or something like that. Mm-hmm. But everything just turns around these three things. And Putin is like that. He has no soul, never had one. He's interested in dominance, food, and women, and that's it.
And this is now. Actually, that's very interesting. I've been doing some reading and research over the years. There's some evidence that Litvinenko was killed for many reasons, but one is that he knew that Putin was a pedophile. Do you know any information about?
No, I never heard of that, but it wouldn't astonish me if it were true. I would say, okay, you see, we should have known it before. He can be anything. If you tell me that he cut his own mother in 10 pieces, I would believe it. He is such a person. He doesn't give a damn about anyone in the world.
Right, KGB and a mafiosa man.
Together, exactly. It's a new breed of KGB people who are much more dangerous than those who were, there 60 years ago.
Well, we all have our fingers crossed that the demonstrations and protests in Russia could hopefully lead to some kind of Russian spring. Let's see what happens. Igor, let me ask you this. Communism represented a great threat during the Cold War. Islam now represents a great threat during the War on Terror. What was a greater threat to Western liberty in your opinion, communism or Islam?
I think Islam is much more dangerous thing. First of all, it disguises as a real religion, and therefore it speaks more to the simple, uneducated people. Because everyone, you see, Islam is not a religion, and never was.
Political ideology.
It's a political ideology using the name of Allah 5 times a day, and that's it. If you read carefully, Mark Dury, for instance, and my knowledge about Islam just comes to a great extent from him. It was a teaching addressed to barbarians and calling on them to conquer the world, what they tried to do, and very successfully.
Yeah. And
so, exactly, if it continues like that, and they continue unopposed, they will conquer us. And you see, you have heard that in Cairo, the first thing the crowd did, they burned down the Egyptian museum because it was built by the French.
Igor, when you go to bed at night, and let's suppose that you are worried about the world situation, what thoughts come to your mind? What worries you the most in terms of what's happening in the world?
I think the Iranian threat. I believe that these Iranians are more dangerous than all Arab countries taken together. They are more intelligent, they are more popular, they are better organized, and they are crazy, not like the, March hare, much worse than that. They really believe that for them to prosper in the other world, they have to destroy this world. They really do believe that, and they will try to do that.
And this is what's so scary, because the communists, despite all their evil, they wanted to live.
Exactly. And these people, as we have seen and continue seeing, are ready to die. They don't give a damn about their own lives, and even much less about all the others' lives.
Yeah, Igor, if Israel made some preemptive strikes on Iranian targets to try to take out their nuclear capability, if they did this tomorrow, would you support that action?
If I could fly a plane, I would implore them on my knees to let me go with them.
Is Obama betraying Israel in the context of Iran?
I think he does, and you see, that's a very important thing. Maybe he is anti-Semite. Maybe he is not. I don't know. Actually, among anti-Semites, you find many Jews, and many prominent Jews. So it's difficult to call them anti-Semites, but they are, because being completely blinded by their view of the world, they say that they are looking for justice, equality, and all good things. Well, the first Bolsheviks were fighting only for equality and justice, and then they killed 50 million of their own people. That's exactly what Obama is trying to do. He is trying to destroy America and the whole world with it. Because without the United States, there is no humanity on the earth.
I think we would agree that Obama is an anti-American president.
The first one. You know, he is much worse than Jimmy Carter, who already tried all that on American skins. Yeah. And somehow Americans did not take the lesson. I don't understand it. It was within one generation.
That somebody could be worse than Carter is really frightening, but I agree with you. Igor, now we have come to the philosophy section of our show. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about what you would do in a certain scenario, and please give me a brief answer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Igor, hypothetically, you are walking down a street, and across the street you see some hooligans who are beating Vladimir Putin mercilessly, and they may beat him to death. Do you keep walking or run across the street to help him?
No, I will run across the street to see how he will be finished. I'm a very cruel person.
So wait, so you would observe but not participate?
Well, I don't know. If there will be a need to keep one of his legs, I would.
I see.
No, you see, I am not a Christian. I believe in the sanctity of human life. I believe in that very strongly, but not every being that looks human is human. I don't believe that Islamic fanaticists are human. Neither is Putin. He just only stole the human form from us.
Igor, you have a gun in your hand and you go into a time machine. You are taken back in time and you get into a room with Hitler while he is a youth. Would you use the gun on him?
On Hitler?
Yes.
You see, I'm ashamed for you, Yasha. I would prefer a good Kalashnikov, but even with a short gun, I could do the job.
Right, you would do this. I mean, I'm saying in some areas, some people don't want to intervene in history. Some people don't believe in killing somebody, no matter how evil they are. I'm just asking you what you would do.
No, I believe only in killing bad guys.
Right.
You cannot do anything. They are crazy. They're like, they're extremely dangerous for everybody.
Right. So, Igor, my dad used to ask these questions. If you went back in a time machine with a weapon of your choice, would you have killed Lenin and Stalin in their youth?
With my modern knowledge, yes. And I regret that what was called provisionary government that had the means to kill Lenin did not do that, exactly like German rightists killed Liebknecht in Luxembourg. But at that time, I am not sure that I would be that wise. Lenin was a well-educated person and believed that something as horrible as what happened can happen. Probably I wouldn't believe that.
Igor, let me ask you this in terms of the state of the left in the West. I find it depressing. I find it scandalous how the left is behaving. Let me ask you this. I mentioned Hitler. During the World War II, before World War II, Hitler and the Nazis kept what they were going to do to the Jews and what they were doing to the Jews a secret. Right now, the Islamists are on the rooftops screaming, "We want to kill the Jews and we will kill the Jews." They are screaming this from the rooftops, and yet the Western left, the international community, is sitting and saying and doing almost nothing. How do you explain this shameless behavior?
Well, not a good explanation, I'm afraid. They are cowards and crazy. They believe that, you don't need to like Jews or hate Jews. It's irrelevant. They are people who are just our first line of defense. It's clear that as soon as they are taken out, everybody else will be.
Right.
And that should decide me. Even if Islamists now, I don't know, I cannot even imagine a situation. Unfortunately, I'm Jewish myself, so everybody can say, that's why you are speaking like that. But no, I have nothing special in common with Israelis or with religious Jews. I do not belong to Jewish culture in any sense. By my language, cultural preferences, etc., I am as Russian as can be. But I understand that to save Russia, you have to save Jews in Israel. To save the United States, first of all, you have to save the Jews in Israel.
But Igor, since the world and the left seems to be controlling the Western discourse, does this mean that anti-Semitism is at a very, very high level currently in the world?
Yes, and it always was, and there are many explanations. I think that people need someone to discharge their evil feelings on. And Jews, being very prominent in many domains of the normal life, are a very easy and convenient target. That's how I explain that.
And so in some respects, you think people scapegoat Jews for their inner need to find somebody to bully.
Exactly, and they believe that if you throw Israel under the bus, well, after that we will live happily ever after. Which is, of course, a stupid admission.
Look, I don't think that what I'm going to say is greatly original, but I think that it's undeniable that Jews are very successful, very intelligent. I mean, look what they've done in Israel. They've built.
Well, look what they do in Nobel Prizes.
Right. So what I was going to say
is in science, all Nobel Prizes went to Jews. All of them.
I was going to say, is this also a matter of jealousy and envy in the world?
It can be, but exactly, again, I don't understand why people are jealous of Jews and are not jealous of an American who gets a Nobel Prize.
Right.
It's ridiculous. They are people. You see, we pay attention to their Jewishness only because of this crazy behavior of the world. Otherwise, would I ever ask you whether you are Jewish? It wouldn't even happen. Such an idea to me. What's the difference?
Right. Igor, before we move on politically, this is a very sacred and treasurable moment for me to be speaking with you for many reasons, but we were also, we are friends, and you were friends with my parents, and both of you, our families shared the same struggle and many things like that. So I want to ask you just for a couple minutes, maybe some things that I don't know about my dad and my mom, and you're also, of course, free and allowed to be critical. Can you tell me something, Igor, about my dad, perhaps that I didn't know? He was also a dissident. What are some of your memories of my father? And maybe
you see, you will be astonished. I did not know your father in Russia. We met first just here.
Right.
We never met before, exactly because he was a dissident and I was not, and I was not interested.
What were some of your conversations with him? What struck you? What do you remember? What did you agree on?
When we met here, I was astonished to discover a kind of another myself. You see, we were very close, I believe, that on all, whatever you take, a scientific question, a political question, a cultural question, a human relations question, we would agree even before we opened the mouth. So it's very strange. We are from different backgrounds. We never met before, and we were over 50, both of us. So you see, we were really, what I knew about your father, that he was very sick, and he was saved, actually, by a doctor called Anna Marshak. I don't know whether you heard of her.
Oh, wait, when he had blood poisoning in the Soviet Union?
Exactly.
Okay.
You can ask your mom much more about how it happened.
Right.
But Anna Marshak, who was a savior for, I know about dozens, but it must run into hundreds of people, especially in our circles. That is the Moscow highbrows of all walks of life. She was the wife of Rosenzweig. And this is another interesting story. Exactly a few months ago, there was his 100th birthday. He died almost 15 years ago. But for his 100th anniversary, I wrote a text about him, which I will send to you right away when we are finished. And you will learn about Anna Markovna. And so, and him, because before he became a kind of a idol and icon and I don't know what for all of us, he was a KGB operative in France.
I see.
Oy, oy, oy. You see, I'll send you my text and you will tell me what you think of it.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you and my dad disagreed about?
Oh, no. For instance, Yura Glazov adored Dostoevsky. Mm-hmm. And I understand why, but I cannot read Dostoevsky myself, for instance.
Is it because
of the religious? Him.
Is it because of the religious themes?
No, I don't know. It irritates me from the age of 18 because people were telling me, until you read Dostoevsky, you don't know anything about the Russian soul, the Russian culture, etc. And I tried hard, and I could not really swallow it and digest it.
So so what Russian author or literary figure can you read and do you enjoy?
Oh, for instance, for the Russian prose, of course, Tolstoy. I believe it's probably the best writer that ever lived. Okay. Also, I liked very much the prose of Pushkin and Lermontov, then Bunin, Chekhov, and poetry.
Igor, speaking of writers, last week, very interesting topic about Solzhenitsyn. You had mentioned how Solzhenitsyn didn't even want to meet with you because he was a very strident nationalist. He was a disappointment on many levels, and a lot of people don't know about this. He was very critical of dissidents. He was very condescending towards dissidents. Let me ask you this. What was in Solzhenitsyn's mind by accepting that prize from Putin at the end of his life? How could a man with any integrity or nobility shake hands with a mob?
That's because he saw in Putin someone who put Russia back on her feet. I believe that's why. And he would do it even if Putin would be already condemned by everybody as Hitler or someone else.
Yeah, but Igor,
Putin was important for Solzhenitsyn. The only thing, the Russian idea. And don't ask me what it means. For me, it's an absurd statement, and I don't know what it could possibly mean.
Yeah, because, Igor, Putin's hands are drenched in the blood of millions of Russian people. This is a cage.
Yes, exactly. But you see, Solzhenitsyn maybe would be less critical of the Soviet regime if Stalin weren't Georgian. I believe so. Wow. I don't know. He hated Lenin, but also Lenin was half Jewish, you see. So Solzhenitsyn could afford that.
It's just, I'm saying, Gulag Archipelago was great and Solzhenitsyn's great on many levels, just that a lot of people do not know this side of Solzhenitsyn.
That's a horrible side, which makes him as a person completely unacceptable to me.
Igor, in terms of Solzhenitsyn and Varlam Shalamov, they had, there were differences among them, of course, many. There was also a disagreement over what happens to a human being in the camps. I think that Solzhenitsyn argued that the Gulag somewhere causes salvation and in the end redeems man through suffering, whereas Varlam Shalamov argued and believed that it only turns man into beasts.
Without going through that hell, how can one say? I don't dare to express my opinion. Right. As much as I heard from some survivors, Shalamov is right. But, it's second-hand or third-hand thing that I just exposed to you. I don't know.
Yeah, you of course have much more respect for Varlam Shalamov than for Solzhenitsyn, correct?
Yes, yes. I cannot even compare these two people as people. Shalamov is a great human being. Solzhenitsyn is a genius and someone who helped Russians, awake or wake up. So his role in Russian history is guaranteed already, but it does not make him into a great human being.
Yeah. Igor, we're going to go to the phone lines, but I got a couple more questions for you.
I'm patient and I'm here.
Let me ask you this. You're a very wise man. You've given a lot of wise answers tonight to some of my questions. Some of my questions were a bit strange. Let me ask you this. Islam and its covering up of women. I will be very truthful with you. If I was sitting at a table with people preparing to build a society and they said, let us put black garbage bags over women, I would begin to fight as strenuously as I could. I would not want to live in a society where women are covered up and we cannot see them. What is the psychology of this religion and political ideology where...
it's a completely continuation of a very animal behavior. The alpha males want their females to be strictly for them, so no one can even approach them. Well, and that's exactly, and if you wish, the strength of the Islamic society is this sexual repression of women on one side and all unmarried young men on the other side.
Right.
It accumulates an incredible energy, and it just pushes you to suicide bombings.
Right. It's and also there's a lot of homosexuality and pedophilia in that culture.
Of course, because exactly they cannot live otherwise.
Yeah,
it's impossible. You cannot make young men until they're 30, until they cannot marry, to live completely like monks. It's technically impossible. So they will find a solution, and it will be the most horrible solution possible.
So Muhammad actually was quite viciously, sadistically shrewd, in that he told his followers, you can't have sex here, you can have it in heaven, and therefore they're trying to die as fast as possible, correct?
Yes, of course, but he was epileptic, like Dostoevsky in one sense. Mm-hmm. He was a pedophile. Exactly, it seems like Dostoevsky. Mm-hmm. And by the way, you know that in Austria, a woman was condemned to a very big fine because she talked to someone. She was conducting a seminar on the history of Islam, and she said that Muhammad had a propensity for very young girls. Mm-hmm. And she was taken to court, and she was accusing Muhammad of pedophilia.
Right.
And when she tried to say that Muhammad, her name is Sabadic, you can check it on the web. When she was saying to the judge, but everybody knows that he married a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah.
The answer was, yes, it's true, but he lived with her until his death, so it is not pedophilia.
Yeah, it's even in Islamic theology. She was simply just stating a fact that's Islamically documented.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, but it is irrelevant. Well, with this kind of philosophy, in quote marks, it means that Muhammad declared that if he says something, what he says now automatically cancels and abolishes whatever he said before.
Yeah. Igor, if you had to choose between living in a very rigid communist society or in a very rigid Islamic society...
communists are much better. I would even prefer the Nazi society to an Islamic society.
Igor, you told a little bit of a very funny joke before the show. Are you willing to tell this joke to our audience?
About the Soviet young female pioneer.
Yes.
Well, you know, the Russian pioneers, it sounds very funny in English, but in Russian, pioneers, it's the same as the British Scouts.
Right.
And although it was completely forbidden to mention even the Boy or Girl Scouts in the Soviet Union, everything was calqued and kind of stolen from this idea. And the Soviet pioneers would always challenge, be ready, and the answer was always ready. And so the joke is, what is the difference between a pork chop and a young female Soviet pioneer? Well, she is always ready, and a pork chop has to be fried before the use. Oh, yes, I see, your listeners like lewd jokes.
Yeah, our listeners love that one. Thank you, Igor. You know, you could have been a stand-up comedian in another life.
Okay, I can try it now. Years ago, in '54, I think, I was telling jokes and someone was taking note, and we went over 4,000. Of course, I don't remember all of them now, but I knew a lot of them. That's true.
The more inappropriate jokes you tell on my show, the better. We're going to go to Atlanta, Georgia. Mark is calling from Atlanta. Mark, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Jamie.
You have a question for our great guest this evening.
I do, and Igor, let me first say that it's very evident the affection you have for Jamie and the chemistry between the both of you, and I find that a very beautiful thing to behold. But let me get to my question, which is two parts actually, and I'll make it brief.
So it is two questions.
Try to be brief, Mark. Thank you.
Sure. Was there, you mentioned, Igor, that there was a time in your youth when you tried your best to avoid politics. And I'm wondering, the first part of my question is, was there a seminal event or something that caused you finally to reevaluate that decision and understand that you had no choice but to get involved? And
Are you interested in the first event or in the last event? There were many.
In the last event. Well, what
the last event was probably Sakharov persecution, specifically by the academic people. That I could not stand. And this went overboard. I knew that whatever happens, I have to tell the world that I disagree with these accusations, and I would protest. It was really the last one in '76. So at that time I was, 44.
Very interesting. Okay, the second part of my question is this. What would you say, what type of advice would you give to a person, and there are so many of these people, I know so many of them myself, in this country who say, oh, it's the same thing you mentioned to Jamie earlier. Oh, it's too big for me. I can't. There's nothing I can do. It's pointless for me to get involved. It's just the machine. The wheels of the machine turn, and I can have no effect.
Well, I don't think that you cannot have any effect. It's a brilliant Russian poet. One of my preferred ones said, "We can never know how a word we say today will ring in a few days from now." And that's absolutely true. You should make all possible pressures on everyone around you first to get rid of Obama. Obama in the White House is the end of the world. So it's the first step. No Obama anymore. As soon as you have a normal American president, the next step, nuclear Iran. And when it is done, the third step.
Wait, what did you
let
say?
us reorganize our economy, outsource less jobs, etc., etc.
Igor, what did you say should be done to Iran? Igor, what did you say should be done to Iran?
First, Obama out. Second, Iran out. Third, outsourcing out.
I see. Okay.
But in that order.
Right. Mark, thank you very much for calling this evening.
Thank you, Jamie.
We have a couple minutes left, Igor. I have a couple more questions for you. I hope I haven't offended you so far this program. Igor?
Yes, well, somehow I lost you. I hear something, but I don't decipher the words.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
A bit better.
Okay.
Oh, now it's okay.
Okay, Igor, I haven't offended you with any of my questions so far this evening?
Oh, Yasha, you cannot offend me.
Okay.
You cannot offend me, you cannot offend me, and you cannot offend me. So you see, 3 impossibilities. Multiplied.
Igor, we have a couple minutes left. It's such a great joy and pleasure.
Ready. I always ready. So you see, I was an old Soviet pioneer.
Yeah. Igor, Who is a hero of yours in the 20th century, and who is somebody that you hate in the 20th century?
Who is my hero? That is the person I would like to be like him, Albert Einstein.
Wow, okay.
Yes, if I could choose my destiny, I would ask God to give me his talents, his soul, and his humanity.
So you are religious after all. I knew it.
No. He was not religious. Oh, no.
No, but you said that God would give you what Einstein has.
That's a way of saying.
Oh, it's just a way of talking. Okay.
No, I don't believe that exactly. I can say that because I know for sure that no one is listening and nothing will happen.
But what if I know for sure that God exists?
Well, so I will respect you for this knowledge, and we'll never discuss that because, you see, you cannot prove his existence.
Okay.
And for me, impossibility to prove the existence presupposes non-existence. But, of course, it's not obligatory. If you don't take this postulate, so you can believe, it's nothing wrong in that.
Igor, who is the most reprehensible figure in the 20th century?
Stalin.
More even
I would
than
say
Mao.
Lenin, but you see, it's difficult to compare. Lenin was probably not any better, but he died relatively young, thank God, and so he had no time to do whatever he could have done.
Igor,
and Stalin had all the time.
Until what age did you think that Stalin was good?
Oh, I don't think I ever believed that he was really that great, but I respected him and believed that he is our leader, etc., etc. Well, till I was 17, 18 maybe.
Any particular event that you realized that you had been brainwashed and indoctrinated?
Yes, and it happened exactly when I was 17 and a half, when I went to the university. Because exactly this year, 1950, Stalin published a little brochure called Stalinism and Problems of Linguistics. Mm-hmm. And it would take too much time to explain to your audience why in the middle of what was happening there was a Korean War on, etc. Suddenly Stalin started writing about linguistics. But he did. And what he wrote was so flat, it was correct, but absolutely without any interest. And I was astonished. And then when I saw that in 1 month after that, all over the place we had, I don't know, gynecology and the famous works of Comrade Stalin about linguistics, I could not believe my own eyes. And when I started the university this year, instead of linguistics, we were taught something called Stalinist linguistics. I still have my note de cours, what is English for that, course notes. That's unbelievable, and more, it was happening around me. But then I believed to some extent that probably Stalin does not know about all this absurd stuff that was happening.
I see. Igor, we have about a minute left. If you, once again, had a lot of inspiration, energy, enthusiasm, and you sat down to write a book, what is a book that you regret you have not written and would write if given the means and opportunity?
You see, not scientific book. I would like very much to write down some events of my own life for my grandchildren. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They are very much interested in that.
That would be
great. But it's so difficult to feed them all this information, even if we spend a few days during their vacations, etc. And then there are people like you who also don't know enough about that time. Absolutely. So I started even writing such a book, but you see, I'm a very poor writer. I'm a good talker, but poor writer, and I don't know whether I will succeed to write something decent.
Igor, I hope that you do get the time. Igor, if Obama wins again, how frightened should we be? 20 seconds.
I don't know. I cannot even imagine that.
But it's a frightening scenario. It's a frightening scenario, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's. I don't know what to do, and there will be no place to hide. because Canada is, well, until now, the Canadian government, thank God, behaves in the best way possible.
Yeah. Well,
but
you live in the best country, one of the best countries in terms of leadership right now, that's for sure. Igor Milchuk, it was a pleasure having you here. I hope you're not too cold up in Canada. And I hope
no, it's only minus 16 now, so that's nothing.
Yeah. It was a pleasure having you, and we'll have you again soon. Thank you for joining us, Igor Milchuk.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank all the audience. I'm like a cow. I like to be milked. So please milk me as often as you want to.
Thank you very much, Igor. Good night.
Bye. Good night, Jimmy.